Ever feel like you're just drowning in information about AI and, you know, what it means for jobs?
Oh, definitely. You're not alone there.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating research. Stuff that kind of cuts through the usual hype, maybe offers some surprising insights.
Exactly. We're tackling that big question. What's the real deal with artificial intelligence and unemployment? We've got a recent study that really dug into data from 24 high-tech developed countries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, over 17 years.
hmm
Plus some really sharp analysis from ING.
Think on the bigger picture, how AI is reshaping things.
Okay, so forget scrolling endlessly. We've basically distilled the key findings. We'll be talking about a paper called Artificial Intelligence and Unemployment in High-Tech Developed Countries, New Insights from Dynamic Panel Data Model. Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, just a bit.
And that ING think analysis. The goal is to give you a clear sense of what's actually happening and, what it might mean for the future. So our mission today, figure out if AI means jobs vanishing or maybe new ones popping up, and just what the world of work might look like with these, well, intelligent machines becoming more common.
Right. Okay, let's jump right in. Does AI actually cause unemployment? It really feels like you hear two completely opposite stories.
You've absolutely nailed the core debate. I mean, on one hand, there's this idea of the replacement effect,
Yeah, okay.
which is pretty straightforward, right? AI gets better, it takes over human tasks, people lose jobs. It's not a new fear either.
No, definitely not.
Leon Tief was talking about this way back in 1983. And more recently, you had Frey and Osborne in 2017 with that big study suggesting, was it like 47% of jobs were at risk of automation?
47%. Yeah, I remember that number. It definitely caused a stir. Fuels a lot of the anxiety, doesn't it?
It really does.
But then there's the other side, the displacement effect.
Exactly. The displacement idea suggests that, yeah, AI automates some stuff, but it also creates new jobs, boosts productivity, and maybe ultimately leads to lower unemployment.
Lower. Interesting.
Yeah, think back to Bowden in '87, arguing AI would lead to different kinds of jobs. And like McKinsey research in 2016 highlighted the need for totally new roles. Data scientists, for example, jobs that barely existed before.
Right. Data science wasn't really a common job title not that long ago.
Not at all. So you have these two, well, really contrasting views.
So this specific study we're looking at today, how did they try to figure out which effect is, actually winning out? Sounds like they had a pretty clever approach.
They did, yeah. They went beyond just theory and looked at real data. From those 24 high-tech countries, Austria, Australia, Canada, Germany, Japan, the U.S., places like that. And crucially, over a long period, 2005 to 2021.
Which covers that period when AI really started taking off, right?
Exactly. That's key. The timing covers that surge in interest in development.
Okay, so lots of countries, a relevant time frame, but how on earth do you measure AI use across all those places consistently? That sounds tricky.
That's where it gets quite ingenious, actually. They use the Google Trends Index GTI.
Like search data.
Precisely. Search data for terms like artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science. The idea is, as people and companies get more interested in AI, adopt it more, they search for these terms more online.
Okay, that makes a certain kind of sense. A proxy measure.
Right. And they were careful, too. They knew these terms are related, so to avoid issues, they analyzed each term in its own separate scenario. AI on its own, machine learning on its own, and so on.
Smart. So they didn't just rely on search trends, though. I think you mentioned some pretty sophisticated statistics.
Oh, yeah, they definitely brought out the statistical toolkit. They use what's called a dynamic panel data model.
Dynamic panel, meaning?
Meaning it accounts for the fact that this year's unemployment is affected by last year's, the economy has inertia.
Got it. History matters.
Exactly. And to tackle that potential chicken and egg problem, like, does AI cause unemployment changes? Or does unemployment affect AI adoption? They use something called the GMM system estimation.
Okay, starting to sound a bit technical now.
Yeah, fair enough. The main point is, it's a rigorous way to try and pin down the actual direction of the relationship, the cause and effect, while dealing with those complexities.
Right. And they didn't just look at AI searches and unemployment in isolation, did they? They controlled for other stuff.
Oh, absolutely crucial. You have to. They included things like the inflation rate.
Okay.
And they found, as you'd kind of expect based on the Phillips curve idea, a negative relationship. Higher inflation tended to correlate with lower unemployment in their data.
Right.
They also controlled for economic growth. And again, as expected from Okun's law, stronger growth was linked to lower unemployment.
Makes sense. More growth, more jobs.
Pretty much. Interestingly, for government spending, their results showed a positive link to unemployment in this specific study. That's something economists actually debate a bit, the impact of government spending.
Okay. So they did all this complex analysis.
Hmm.
What was the punchline? What did they actually find about AI, or at least the searches for it, and unemployment?
Well, this is the part that might surprise some people. The main result, across all three scenarios, whether looking at artificial intelligence searches, machine learning, or data science, was a negative relationship with unemployment.
Wait, negative.
Yeah.
So more searching for AI stuff was linked to less unemployment?
That's what the data showed for this period in these countries. It directly supports that displacement effect argument we talked about.
Wow. Okay, that definitely goes against a lot of the headlines, doesn't it? Was it a big effect? Like, how much lower was unemployment?
Well, the effect size per year was statistically significant, but maybe sounds small in isolation. For instance, a 1% increase in the Google Trend Index for artificial intelligence was linked to about a 0.003% decrease in unemployment.
Okay, 0.0003%. Tiny number.
It seems tiny, yeah, but remember, this is across many countries and many years, and they found similar, small, but statistically significant negative effects for machine learning and data science too. So it suggests a consistent, albeit subtle trend, where more AI interest correlated with slightly better employment outcomes.
Subtle, but consistent. And those other factors, inflation and growth, behaved like theories predicted.
Yes, mostly. Inflation and growth both showed that expected negative link to unemployment. The government spending result was positive in their model, which, as we said, is less universally agreed upon in economics.
And the researchers themselves, they felt confident in these findings. They checked their work.
They did. They ran a bunch of diagnostic tests, things with names like Sargan or Ilana Bond, He, and Passarin CD, basically ways to check if the statistical model was reliable. And those tests supported their approach. They seemed confident the model was sound.
Okay, so that's one major piece of evidence suggesting AI might not be the job killer, some fear, at least not yet or not overall in these places. But we also have the ING Think analysis. How does their perspective line up with this?
Well, ING Think definitely starts by acknowledging this whole debate is ongoing and reminding us, look, people have worried about technology killing jobs for centuries.
True, the Luddites and all that.
Exactly. And they point out that historically, previous waves of automation computers, factory robots, didn't actually lead to the kind of mass long-term unemployment that was often predicted. That historical context is pretty important, I think.
It really is. Easy to forget we've been through big tech shifts before. So what's ING Think seeing right now more recently?
They highlight something quite striking. Over the last decade or so, even as automation has clearly increased, unemployment in places like the US and the Eurozone has actually been pretty low.
Yeah, that's true. Pre-pandemic especially, and even now it's not sky high generally.
Right. Early 2024 figures they mentioned are like U.S. unemployment around 3.9%, Eurozone about 6.4%. And critically, there's been strong demand for workers, lots of job openings. They mentioned high vacancy rates in Europe, and 8.9 million job openings in the U.S. in January 2024. Companies are looking for people.
So if jobs aren't just disappearing wholesale, what is happening according to ING? More of a shift.
Precisely. They talk about a transformation of the job market, not a disappearance. They've seen growing demand for what they call professionals, higher skilled roles. Meanwhile, growth in jobs like clerical support workers or craft and related trades has been slower, sometimes even declining between 2012 and 2019. It kind of fits that idea of job polarization growth at the top and maybe the bottom squeezing the middle, though that's debated too.
Polarization, right. And we're definitely seeing new kinds of jobs emerge, especially in tech.
Absolutely. ING mentions things like drone operators, VR designers roles that barely existed a short while ago. And the U.S. data from 2012 to 2019 showed a massive, like 40.3% jump in computer and math jobs.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah, huge growth for software developers, information security analysts. But interestingly, not all IT jobs boomed. They note demand actually dipped a bit for roles like network architects and maybe even some types of programmers. So even within tech, things are shifting.
So the IT field itself is evolving rapidly. Okay, now, ING Thing also makes a point that this current wave of AI is fundamentally different, doesn't it?
Yes, this is really critical. Earlier tech mostly hit manual labor, routine tasks, but AI, especially generative AI, the kind that creates content, writes code, analyzes complex data.
Like ChatGPT and similar tools.
Exactly. That kind of AI can impact all skill levels, including managerial jobs, professional jobs, the very kinds of jobs that have seen growth. They even mention the potential for AI to eventually reach general human intelligence. That's a whole other level.
Yeah, that's a big concept. So if AI can potentially touch almost any job, how do we even think about its impact systematically?
It's tough. ING points to an approach the IMF uses, which seems quite useful. Instead of just task automation, the IMF looks at social, ethical, physical aspects of jobs, plus the required skills.
Okay, a more holistic view.
Right.
Yeah.
And based on this, they group jobs into three categories: high exposure, high complementarity; high exposure, low complementarity; and low exposure.
Okay, can you break those down? Give us some examples.
Sure, high exposure, high complementarity means AI can really help, but humans are still crucial. Think surgeons using AI diagnostics or lawyers using AI for research. The AI is a tool, but human judgment is key.
Got it. Augmentation.
Exactly. Then high exposure, low complementarity. Here, AI can do a lot of the core tasks, maybe replacing more human input. Telemarketers are often cited as an example, and those jobs have declined.
Right, that makes sense.
And finally, low exposure jobs are ones where AI, currently at least, doesn't have much application. Could be anything from a dishwasher to maybe certain types of artists.
Okay, that framework is helpful. And ING suggests developed countries will feel this more.
That's the idea. Because advanced economies have a higher share of jobs in those high exposure categories, the IMF estimated around 60%. So places like the Eurozone and the US are likely to see more AI-driven change.
60% exposed. But you've got to stress, right? Exposure doesn't automatically mean losing your job.
Absolutely vital point. Exposure means the job is likely to change significantly, maybe requiring new skills, maybe using AI as a tool.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean the job disappears.
Okay. So within those exposed jobs, which categories does ING think are most likely to shrink and which might actually benefit?
They suggest clerical support staff, often in that high exposure, low complementarity bucket, are probably most vulnerable to potential job losses.
Yeah.
This might hit the Eurozone harder, as they have a slightly larger share of these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But managers, also highly exposed, are often seen as having high complementarity. AI can be a powerful tool for them for analysis, planning, etc. But the human element, leadership, strategy, people skills, remains vital, so they might benefit.
So managers could actually become more effective with AI.
Potentially, yes. And there's even an interesting idea mentioned by Otter in 2024, I think, that AI might help the middle class by allowing more skilled workers to handle tasks previously done by higher paid professionals, kind of augmenting their capabilities.
That's a counterintuitive thought, AI empowering the middle, not just replacing it. But it all comes back to skills, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Adapting, learning new digital competencies, it's crucial. And ING notes that digital skill levels vary quite a bit across Europe, for example. Being comfortable with these tools is going to be key.
Okay, so putting it all together, we have the study suggesting AI isn't causing mass unemployment, maybe even the opposite slightly. We have ING saying, yes, big transformations are happening, jobs are changing, skills are vital, but look at history and current low unemployment.
Right.
Why aren't they predicting, the robot apocalypse for jobs?
There are a few big reasons they land on. First, just practical stuff. Rolling out AI everywhere takes time. You need data, infrastructure, training, regulations need to catch up. It's not instant.
Right, implementation isn't flicking a switch.
Not at all. And second, this is huge demographics. Developed countries are aging. The working age population in the Eurozone, for instance, is projected to shrink significantly in the coming decades.
So we might actually need automation to fill gaps.
That's a very real possibility. AI could help offset labor shortages caused by fewer younger workers entering the workforce and more older workers retiring.
That puts a totally different spin on it.
It does. ING highlights the increasing share of older workers, 55, 64, and notes that many are in sectors like agriculture and management. When they retire, AI could help mitigate that loss of labor and experience, making remaining workers more productive or automating some tasks.
So the conclusion isn't don't worry, but it's definitely not panic. It sounds like AI is a major force for change, reshaping jobs, but maybe not destroying them wholesale in these developed economies.
That seems to be the most balanced view based on the evidence we've looked at today. The displacement effect, jobs changing, new roles emerging seems more likely than simple mass replacement, at least for now.
And for everyone listening, the message seems crystal clear. Adaptability is key. Lifelong learning, developing new skills, especially digital ones.
Exactly right. It's less about being replaced and much more about evolving with the technology. How can AI make you better at what you do or open up new possibilities?
So, a final thought for everyone mulling this over. Considering these insights, what new skills do you think will be most valuable? How could AI augment your own work or career path? It really feels like this is just the beginning of understanding this shift. What other questions does this raise for you about AI and the future of work?